So while I'm taking some time to work on the N-Scale Thomas video, and after seeing how much you guys enjoyed the history of Lady, I figured it's about time we talk about the history of Splatter and Dodge too. However, some of you guys made a good point that we can't really talk about Splatter and Dodge without talking about Arry and Bert, and the history of them as well. So today I thought it'd be fun to not only take a look at Splatter and Dodge, but those two as well, and do sort of a double-up twin special. Since I'm not sure about you guys, but Arry and Bert and Splatter and Dodge are some of my favorite Diesel characters. And I know I say that about almost every character, but especially with these guys. I adore Thomas and the Magic Railroad, and I also adore any scene that has the scrapyards in it. So this will definitely be a fun one. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get into it, starting with Arry and Bert. Originally, Arry and Bert were created by Britt Allcroft and David Minton, and they work on the Northwestern Railway, mostly at the scrapyard and the ironworks, as the lettering on their side says. Despite being twins, the two are not exactly identical, and the way you can tell them apart is Bert normally has more stubble. The two would make their debut in the 5th season of Thomas and Friends in 1998, that being in the episode Stepney Gets Lost, and both take the basis of a BR Class 08. Now, in terms of their Gauge 1 models, both were designed to run on Gauge 1 track, and were built out of molds of Diesel's model, with their buffers and couplings being sourced by 10 Mile. Both Arry and Bert's chassis were CNC, meaning they were constructed from scratch. They were powered by electricity from the track via pickups on their metal wheels. However, each utilized 10 Mile split-spoke wagon axles. The two also operated with a familiar eye mechanism, the same that the other locomotives did. They could move up and down, left and right, with the eyeballs themselves being coupled to brackets and locked in place by the faceplates, so whenever the servos were powered, the eyeballs could move however the crew desired. Between Arry and Bert, about 17 different facial expressions were sculpted, although only 14 were ever used on screen, 3 of which, the depressed, disgusted, and tired faces, were all left unused. If you've watched any of the previous videos, you know how these faces were made. They were sculpted in clay, and from that resin casts were made using a silicone mold. And currently, one of Bert's faces is owned by Twitter user Tom's Props. It's also worth mentioning that in the episode Stepney Gets Lost, Arry and Bert are seen with lamps. These were powered by a hidden battery pack. Now, throughout the model era, Arry and Bert would have several modifications. For example, in Season 6, the position of their hazard stripes changed, as well as their side rods changing color. In Calling All Engines, they gained new horns, but largely the characters would stay the same. Arry and Bert's models used to be on display in Canada at Nitrogen Studios, and wore their sly and cross faces. However, I'm not sure if they are still there. If anybody can confirm that in the comments, that'd be great. And from that we move on to their close-up models, which were required for scenes where they had to interact with close-up scale figures. Only one model was ever built between the two, and the model itself, like others, was not complete. Only portions of the cab were built. This close-up model would only appear in Calling All Engines, specifically a learning segment, which things are the same. However, that unfortunately ties up their live-action models. From this point we move on to their CGI ones. In 2009, Arry and Bert CGI models were made, that being done by Nitrogen Studios. However, test footage was created by Stardust Pictures, as they recreated scenes from Thomas and the Stinky Cheese. These models were hand-sculpted in Maya, a 3D animation and modeling software, and photographs of Arry and Bert's Gauge 1 models were used for reference. Arry and Bert would see some slight modifications throughout the CGI series. For example, in Season 14, their faces became slightly larger, also gaining new horn sounds, and then in Season 18, they each gained a tail lamp, but just like the model series, they would relatively stay the same. And unfortunately, that ties up the history of Arry and Bert. However, the story does not end there, as there's a big part that I left out. In Thomas and the Magic Railroad, Arry and Bert's models were actually repainted to create the characters Splatter and Dodge. After the events of the film, they were later reverted, but it's at this point we'll start talking about those two. So, Splatter and Dodge were made as supporting antagonists for Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Originally, they were to be dim-witted and slavishly loyal to Diesel 10, though in the final film it was their incompetence that was more retained, and in the end they betrayed Diesel 10. The two would only appear in Magic Railroad and both speak with clear American accents, though at first Patrick Breen was supposed to voice both of them. Neil Crone took the role of Splatter in the final cut, while Kevin Frank took the role of Dodge. Just like Lady, the concept art for these two was drastically different from their final models, and you can see these two now on screen. Now, in terms of their Gauge 1 models, Splatter and wait, that's my bad. Splatter and Dodge's models were recycled from Arry and Bert's models, which we've already said were created out of molds of Diesel's model. Splatter used a new chassis that was CNC, while Dodge reused Diesel's chassis, which was sourced from a Gauge 1 locomotive made by Markland, the BR-80. They were also powered the same way as Arry and Bert. In total, Splatter and Dodge had 5 different facial expressions sculpted for them, although only 4 were ever used on screen, and one of which, a chuckling face, was used in a deleted scene and promotional images, and a laughing face was only seen in a resin cast form. Just like the others, the faces were sculpted in clay, and from that resin casts were made using a silicone mold. In night scenes, Splatter and Dodge are seen with lamps. These are powered by hidden battery packs inside of their bodies. And like stated previously, after the events of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, Splatter and Dodge's models were reverted back to Arry and Bert, and Dodge's chassis was refitted back into Diesel. So unfortunately, that wraps up the history of Splatter and Dodge. It's largely the same as Arry and Bert. They worked the same and basically were the same. And hopefully you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about all 4 of them. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe for even more train content. And if there's anyone else you guys would like to see in this series, be sure to comment down below and let me know. You guys have seriously been on a roll with some killer recommendations, so hopefully the videos live up to expectation. As always guys, thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. And no, don't think I forgot, we're doing the N-Scale Thomas too soon.